Today I woke up and I chose violence. I chose conflict with the Nintendo fandom, with the 3DS cult following. I have a few issues with the 3DS. I was thinking about it and talking about it with a friend a few days ago. Decided to make a video about the design's flaws of the 3DS that I think are present with the system. Here's my 3DS. I played it a lot, so I have ground to talk about it. Since I used it so much, there's some parts of the system that lost their color on the side, because I've played a lot of Monster Hunter on it. So let us proceed with what I think of the system. So the 3DS is characterized by one feature above all that was marketed in all aspects. The 3D of the 3DS, without glasses, you can dive deep into the world with your own eyes, and there's a slider on the side that allows you to customize how deep you want it to be. Turns out that I don't like this feature. It was cool at the beginning, but I never used it. I have it at the bottom of all times when I do play the 3DS, which I didn't in a long time because I play my Switch much more. The problem is that the 3D is quite the gimmick. It's cute, but it does reduce the performance of some games. Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, which is the game I played the most on that system, runs at a higher frame rate if you leave it off, so the experience is much smoother. But turning it on halves the frame rate pretty much, and I do not like that. I prefer vastly a smoother frame rate to such a gimmick. Another aspect of the 3DS I do not enjoy, and that I realize they fucked up immensely, is the lack of a proper second joystick. In the original model of the 3DS, it did not come with a knob to direct your camera. They realized their mistakes, so what they did is come up with the Circle Pad Pro. Circle Pad Pro, not a good thing. Okay, fine, you clip your 3DS in it, but it ends up making the device so bulky that it loses the portable aspect of the device. And it wasn't really great, I think. They came up with the new 3DS with like the improved innards, right? It's a bit more powerful, and there's a knob. There is a knob here, but this knob is not a good alternative for a second joystick because it is not a second joystick. They would have much better made this a second circle pad that you see that you can have here. You have it on your side, on the side. That's the joystick equivalent of a joystick, the circle pad. Would have been great to have one on this side as well. But no, they went with this tactile knob, which is you don't move it physically, but you press one of the directions tactically, and the camera or whatever feature is using it will go in that direction. But the big problem is, it didn't work too well for me. It didn't work too well because when I didn't mod this 3DS to have a PSP stick, I took the rubber out, slapped a PSP joystick in the stick, and it worked much better. But when it was just a rubber knob, there are some directions which wouldn't work too well in my console, and it would just ruin the experience for me. I think the whole reason why they went with the tactical knob on this side is because they fucked up in the first place by not implementing a joystick, so the original innards of the device were not that easy to customize and tamper with. They couldn't just maybe replace the entire side here of the 3DS, so they had to put it very briefly on the side here. That wouldn't take too much space where the buttons are, but I think it's a shame. It would have been so much better to have a second one here, even smaller, but still a joystick that would physically move and that would work in the first place. So I don't like it. Now there's a second part of that device, a third part more like, that I think that the 3DS fumbled. It's the resolution. I think it's 240p. It's pathetically low. Sure, it's a handheld device. Some games you don't really notice it's pixels, but when you play 3D games you can really see the chunky pixels and sometimes maybe the blurriness. It's ugly. It's not that pretty. There are some pretty games on there, but generally it's not that pretty because the screen resolution is so low. Because of the 3D feature! Was it that worth it to have this 3D feature if you're going to make the screens that low resolution? In my case, I don't think so. I would have much preferred a high resolution screen like the PlayStation Vita, or even a 480p screen like the PSP. A fourth point of the 3DS that I do not really enjoy it is the fact that it's not that nice to hold. It hurts my hands. A while back I tried to play Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate on it again, and it just wasn't comfortable. My wrist would hurt, even if I tried to hold the device in a way that wouldn't just bend my wrists in an uncomfortable position. I don't have big hands. Thing is, I hear people with big hands that complain about the system because it's too small and the hands cramp. I have the same. My hands are not big. And still it hurts. It's not comfortable for me. Is this a device oriented for children that have even smaller hands? It's a shame. You could make it so much more comfortable, but it just isn't. It's not comfortable. I've never found a way to play the system that felt entirely comfortable. Despite the design flaw of the system, it was widely successful. I mean, when it first came out, I understand it was a flop until they cut the price down. And then it sold a lot of units. It supported Nintendo during the dark era of the Wii U. And I think that its success was mostly attributed to its quality game library and to its low price. Because the system itself, even though it was packed with features, the features were mostly useless and it lacked comfort and a second joystick. I feel the PlayStation Vita just did the whole handheld system so much better. The 3DS has the problem that the PSP encountered. The PSP had games and the lack of second joystick hurt them. So the game developers had to be creative with their games to make them function with the lack of the second joystick. And it's the same with this system. Games that might have needed a second joystick, they had to get creative, like Luigi's mentioned too. The original on GameCube, was supporting the C-stick of the GameCube controller, but Dark Moon on the 3DS obviously had to accommodate for the base system that did not come with a second joystick. And all through the 3DS's life, Nintendo and third-party developers had to think about first developing the games for the base 3DS that did not enjoy the Circle Pad Pro or the little rubber knob at the top right of the device, which ultimately might have limited gameplay functions. But again, there's the whole tralala, games have to innovate around the limitations, but I feel there's a point where some limitations are just not necessary because there already were features that were developed to overcome these limitations at some points, and not incorporating them in the system in the first place is pretty silly to me. But in general, this system, it has had a wide appeal for all demographics. You had your casual games like your Marios or Zeldas, and more hardcore games like Monster Hunters and portable Resident Evil games. Despite all the flaws that I find with this system, it did have a great library that really contributed to the quality of the system. I wish in a way that all the support that this system got would have also went to the PlayStation Vita, because the Vita failed where it had a much stronger potential than a 3DS, I feel. But in the end, the support came in majority to this system due to its availability. And there were so many iterations of the 3DS. I mean, it's kind of crazy. It came with the base 3DS, right? Base 3DS, where you could change the cover plate. Then came the XL, that was for the bigger hands, but still, this is an XL and it still hurts me. Then there was the new 3DS, and the new 3DS XL. But that wasn't enough for Nintendo because they came up with the 2DS. And then the new 2DS XL. There was new 2DS. There were so many iterations of the systems, and was it truly necessary? The 2DS lines, I understand that it came out maybe to lower the price point because people were just not using the 3D function of the system. And in the end, I think like the base 2DS was below €100, which made it really affordable for parents to buy for their children. You know, for the holidays or birthdays. The new 3DS, I feel, should have been the base model that came out instead of the original base 3DS. Because then maybe it would have been able to have a stronger library of systems that would have enjoyed more of the features, like the nub stick. I feel that even though there were some improvements, everything was still limited by the original design. But you know, this device had good things going for it, and it did prove that a weaker, less capable system could still be widely successful due to the support that it receives to its games, and that stronger hardware might not necessarily be the most successful. And in some way, this influenced the Nintendo Switch because of Nintendo's popularities in the handheld system. They were inclined to making more handhelds, and I feel that this console is the reason also why they merged their handhelds and home console divisions. But part of me wonders what would have happened if they did not go with the whole 3D effect and instead had focused on just making a powerful system akin to the PlayStation Vita, but with the Nintendo flavor. You can keep the two-screen setup, even if I do have some criticism about it, but making it much more powerful. Would there have been a chance in an alternate timeline where Nintendo didn't go with the one-screen setup for the Switch, but the Switch was actually a two-screen setup, just like the 3DS? Would it have been possible? Would a powerful 3DS or a powerful DS have shown Nintendo that this was the way to go? And I think one last aspect about the DS and the 3DS as a whole is that I don't feel the dual screen setup was truly necessary. I will get flanked for that. I will get flanked. I will, people are probably bringing out their Nintendo 64 controller shaped pitchforks, but in most of the games I played, didn't really take advantage of the system, of the dual screen setup. Sure, you had the map on the bottom screen, you had your inventory for easy access, but I don't really care about that. I don't mind bringing up the menu with the press of a button. Most games I played, as I said, did not use the feature well. There were some first-party games that did do more with the system, like Phantom Hourglass or Spirit Tracks, the Zelda games on the DS, but they might have inclined too much on using the bottom screen and the tactical feed to do everything in the game instead of having a traditional controller layout that people might have preferred, because that's the main criticism about these games. People did not enjoy using the stylus and the tactical screen too much. So in the end, for me, the DS and 3DS, there's this feeling in my heart that I much preferred the PSP, and the Vita. The little I played of the Vita, it felt much better to me. And I wonder if it's because the PlayStation focused on a more traditional handheld experience instead of chasing superficial gimmicks. And Nintendo also realized that the 3D wasn't necessary by releasing the final iteration of the 2DS, the new 2DS. To make a brief summary, I do have my problems with the 3DS. I did enjoy playing the games, because it has a strong library of games that is unfortunately not accessible officially, because Nintendo never offered a way to officially play the games outside of emulation and piracy. You can't access the wide and strong library of the system anymore, and that is such a shame. That's such a shitty thing. And Nintendo did learn from the flaws of the 3DS. They did not continue the line of systems. They went back to a traditional console with the Switch, which is closer to a Vita than a 3DS. This device did have a lot of success and have a wide appeal. This is the penultimate Nintendo handheld device of an era where they focused on gimmicks, and we may never see such a device again. And the unique experiences that it offered, even if they were far in between. So I do have mixed feelings about the system, in all honesty. Great games, but disappointing design for me. But enough about me. What did you think about the 3DS and the DS systems, in all honesty? Did you enjoy the games on it? What were your favorite games on it? What were your favorite gimmicks on it? Just tell me about it, Write me a comment about all your feelings about this system. I hope you enjoyed my little thoughts and feelings over the 3DS and that you didn't bite your nails and want to strangle me through the screen, or that you didn't want me to squash me between the two screens of your favorite system. And I'll see you for the next video. Cheers.